Here's a nice cross-section of America. 4 dorky white guys and 1 token black.
I will restore our moral standing so that America is once again that last best hope for all who are called to the cause of freedom, who long for lives of peace, and who yearn for a better future.
Welcome back. I'm Bill Bennett. We're talking beyond the politics. So we can once again become the last best hope of Earth. When did we lose it? Did we stop being the last best hope?
Oh, boy, Bill, that really jumped out at me when Barack Obama said that. I mean, how to unpack this? First of all, when he says, I will restore this to me is a total contradiction of the idea that America's strength comes from its people, not from a charismatic leader. Secondly, the idea that America has lost that type of moral standing. I mean, a lot of Americans could ask you, what about immigration? Where was he in this immigration debate? And the idea that people around the world no longer see America as a beacon of freedom. Bill, I just went to a friend's citizenship ceremony last week at the federal courthouse here in Washington, D.C. I saw a room full of people raising their hand to say, I love this country so much, I want to become its citizen. You couldn't help but be moved by this. I think this is the America that people come here to know, that people here live here know. And for Barack Obama to say that we've lost that, we've lost our moral standing, it just, to me,
Barack Obama aside, is it true that, not in the eyes of the world, but the American people still regard America the way Lincoln did, as the last best hope of Earth?
The moral stature thing and how they regard themselves is the key issue. I mean, the first thing you teach a child is don't follow the multitude to do evil. What is important is not what European intellectuals or journalists say about you, it's what you think about yourself. I think we're reasonably confident that we are doing our best to do the right thing. I think the idea that we regard ourselves as no longer the last best hope is false, except insofar as we're losing, I think the whole picture, our picture of the United States is dissolving because we're not teaching our children well enough who we are and what we are.
I want to get to that teaching
point in a minute. We still care about
I want to get to that teaching point in a minute. Alan, you looked to me like you were just about to disagree again.
Yeah, as I remember what Senator Obama was trying to say, and if he wasn't, he should have been, is a reference to the fact that over the past few years we've been engaging in torture. We have the horror known as Guantanamo Bay. We've suspended habeas corpus. We're not obeying the Geneva Conventions. And he wants to get America back to what it was when it honored all of those things. That's why I think it is a presidential responsibility. He's talking about the president as a moral leader who can take America back to the ideals that it believes in most. Unless we honor those ideas of freedom and human dignity, we are not, in fact, the world's best hope.
Steve?
I agree. I think that really was about torture, and that torture is the stain on America's as a beacon of freedom and hope in the current time. I think actually one of the big scandals of this last decade is that religious leaders were relatively silent on the torture debate. Now, there's pragmatic arguments in favor of torture, but at a minimum, it's a profound moral argument that we didn't have.
But do you think it's actually true that people don't want to come to this country, that they don't see America as a place where they can fulfill their dreams and their ideals and their children's futures? I mean, I think that still stands. I can tell you, I got a lot of reaction that was, you have to be proud of your country if you want to lead it.
I think it is an issue. You know, we live in a global world, and immigrants come here from all over, and they still have families and friends back home. And when immigrants from the Arab and Muslim lands talk about the Patriot Act, or talk about what it's like to get through the immigration and naturalization and how unwelcome people are, that word spreads. It spreads into all those places that breed terrorism.
Can we talk about the torture thing just very specifically, because the two of you objected? In general, no, but some circumstances. Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, waterboarding to get the information that prevented perhaps the bombing of buildings in Chicago or Los Angeles, I would be in favor of it. Is my moral sense dead?
Absolutely, and so
it is.
It's. I think you're right.
Oh.
I think if you're the commander-in-chief, you have a responsibility to put the protection of your country and of the world at large first. It's a terrible burden to take upon yourself to authorize the waterboarding of somebody. That's what we pay them for.
All right, but
that's what a leader is expected to do.
Let's go back to the general question. You want to make a quick comment?
There's a reason that inside the Bush administration, they thought that the biggest catastrophe of the war was when the photos of Abu Ghraib became public, because they knew that that was a stain on the Americans' stand of principle.
I think we all agree. Do you think that, in general, I guess we'll go to the philosophical level, hearing all this back and forth and the war and everything else, that the American people believe less in this country overall than we did at the time of Lincoln?
No, but I think you run a risk when the leadership of the country does things like this, that it could be corrosive down to the level of the individual person. In terms of individual people, yes, they love their country, as Amy was saying. There's no doubt about that.
And is it deserved? Overall, is it deserved?
Well, that's all the more reason why our leaders have to live up to our ideals and not violate them. When they do, then it's deserved. When they don't, it isn't.
I think that, you know, not to dabble back into politics, but actually this campaign is a very hopeful campaign in some ways. The fact that you have these two candidates who both prove two different aspects of the American dream.
Both have lift, right?
Both have lift. Both are embodiments of incredible, whether it's character and fighting for the country or equal opportunity. I think that's the exciting part of what we're seeing now.
A couple of great American stories.
Sure, and let's not forget, I mean, through the 90s, we had the culture wars. Is our culture going to hell in a handbasket with our popular culture and sex and violence? But then we saw 9/11. Americans were deeply patriotic and deeply in love with the idea of America.
We're going to get into the patriotism question, and is it taking, and are our kids learning our country? Can you love something that you don't know? This is a special favorite topic of mine.